Hi everybody. Today I'm going to introduce you to a topic called sectionalism, and I'm going to read the passage to you and just kind of explain a little bit how the United States and the territory out west is divided up at this time into three separate and unique sections. And so we're going to look at that, and that's the way the country kind of looks, or how it's divided up leading into the Civil War. All right, so sectionalism. Sectionalism is a tendency among people to blindly focus on the interest of a section of a place at the expense of the whole. In national politics, sectionalism often comes before separatism. In a political context, sectionalism is loyalty to the interest of one's own region or section of the country, rather than the nation as a whole. Well, there's a lot of big words right there. So really what it's saying is that our country in the decades leading up to the Civil War is divided into three separate areas: the North, the South, and the West. And each area is fiercely loyal to its own region. Just like today, Texans are very loyal and devoted citizens of the state of Texas. And I think every state is that way, but boy, Texas really is, and that's a good thing. And surely back in this day and age, there was a lot of that devotion to their own area. The North and the South had completely, really different economic systems, how they made money. The North relied almost entirely on factory work, and most of the people lived in large cities and urban areas. And in the South, they relied primarily on plantation agriculture, where slavery dominated the South and made agriculture profitable. And in the West, you have an expanding West that not only farms but also mines. You have miners out there. You have towns that are developing. The railroad is moving across the country. You have ranchers. All sorts of things going on out in the West, and they have their own unique interests that they want represented in Washington, D.C., in the legislative branch, in Congress. And so each area, each section has that same intention, that same desire to have their unique characteristics represented in Congress. So that's kind of how the country is divided up in the decades leading up to the Civil War, which starts in 1861. So I'm going to continue reading right here. It says, in the United States, sectionalism became a major problem and the nation's fasting growing influence when Missouri applied for statehood in 1819. Most of those living in Missouri wanted slavery to be allowed in the state. However, if this had happened, there would be 12 states that allowed slaves and only 11 that did not, consequently upsetting the balance of power in the United States Senate. The Missouri Compromise solved the problem and restored balance in the United States Senate by adding two new states to the Union, Maine and Missouri. Maine would be a state where slavery was illegal, and Missouri would have slavery. So just to come back to this map here, this section right here, when the 13 colonies were originally founded, was Massachusetts. It was part of Massachusetts, which is also right here. So Massachusetts was divided into two sections, right about here, and then this big, huge kind of peninsula up here. And when slavery became an issue again as our country moved westward, and Missouri wanted to enter the country as a slave state, it would give more power in Congress to southern states because they would have a greater amount of states in the Congress that represented slavery. And the North didn't like that. And so a compromise was created by which slavery would be allowed in Missouri, but in order to balance out so there was an equal amount of free and slave states, Maine is carved out of this section that was once Massachusetts, and a whole new state is made. And that, of course, is a free state, and now the balance of free and slave states in the U.S. Congress remains the same. So let's look here on the last paragraph. Sectionalism played a minor part in President Abraham Lincoln's winning of the election in 1860. Because Lincoln did not support slavery expanding where it already existed, and all of the northern states, with most of the popular votes, also did not support slavery, Lincoln won more of the popular votes in those states, and thus won their votes in the United States Electoral College, as well as border states. Lincoln's win caused many southern states to suspect that their rights, their states' rights, would not be protected. So they seceded from the Union and established the Confederate States of America, which eventually led to the American Civil War. So you have Abraham Lincoln and northern states that do not want slavery to go beyond this gray area, and that's one thing that he is elected president on. And because he does not favor slavery spreading beyond this gray area into the yellow area, these southern states will begin to leave the Union, which is something we'll be talking about as we go through this unit on the Civil War. So the first part of this assignment, it says, list a few things that you see in this picture. So you'll write those things that you see in that map above. Secondly, it says, based upon the text, please define the word sectionalism. And you'll find that in the first paragraph. What were the different sections in the sectionalism of the United States? Again, so you would, look at the map for that answer. What was the name of the compromise that solved the balance of power in the United States? Who won the presidency based upon the sectionalism of the mid-1800s? And in what year did Missouri try to become a state? All right, let me know if you have any questions about how to complete this bell work activity.